This part, you know, when everybody picks their nail right here, Ron ended up down there because you probably haven't been picking your nails enough.
I don't pick my nails.
That's why
I
it
was
grew down
working
there.
on the dock and cutting something, and the knife came down alongside.
Oh,
my
you got a
fingernail,
wound and it's growing out.
sliding down here, and it whacked it off. And so
Oh.
it grew back
Down
almost
there.
all the way, but then this part doesn't keep healing.
Right.
It hasn't healed for 20 years, so it's time to get it fixed.
Do you take vitamin C?
No, he doesn't take anything. He won't.
Vitamin E on it?
Nothing.
Oh, God.
Take women's, one a day, multivitamin. Women's, because that's iron. Mans don't get the iron.
Any women's?
Look at that cat. What a cat, huh? Jesse likes to perform, doesn't he? Look at him. You got to see him on me. He does that stuff at night on me. He crawls right over my chest and does that. Like, look at me and look
I
what a
think if you spend
performer
more
I
money,
am.
you get a better name.
Which one goes under your armpit?
This one?
Sticks his nose under there. I thought, God, that must stink, Jesse.
You don't want to stick their noses in each other's butts.
That's a good point.
Oh no, is that a butt spot, Jesse?
That's what she just
Clean
said.
butt smell.
That's what she just said.
Jesse, I wash them every
out
day
my
very
butt.
good, and I use 2 kinds of soap on them. I use the soft soap and the deodorant soap, both.
Maybe
That's why it smells like roses.
deodorant. I like the perfume.
Yeah. Anyway, unification is God. God is unification. If you will start looking at everything that happens in your lives, they're a form of repulsion and then unification. And when things go back together, it's an orgasm. When they go apart, it's a explosion, or a parting, or a painful event, or whatever. But when things come together, it's, Osho would call it love. I'd rather call it unification. And the reason I'd rather call it unification is because love has so many bad connotations. It reminds me of diamonds and roses and letters and words and pseudo things, not real things. The word love reminds me of pseudo things.
Totally.
How about you, Cammie? Doesn't it remind you of pseudo things? Love?
Yeah. Now.
Devotion is closer
Yeah.
to unification than
That's
love.
more easily misconstrued as love. Devotion is more easily connotated with love than unification.
Than unification?
Mhm.
And then, how do you get to unification? You got to have something happen in between. There's an equals. There's a thing that this equals that. There's a line there and line there, and starts with an S.
Yes.
Yes.
Right.
And that's the formula. Okay.
Right. Instead of
Devotion equals surrender, and surrender equals unification, which equals God. That's the formula.
Got that down, Vern?
Did you get it?
Right here.
Okay. Read it back.
Devotion equals surrender equals unification equals God.
And draw, and that's the flow inward. Draw arrows. That's the ingoing to the domain of God or creation. Okay, and then there's an outgoing, which is an arrow the opposite way. Everything swings back and forth. Even in the quantum field, in the relative field, everything swings back and forth. The outgoing is the explosion of the Big Bang, which is the pain and all the opposite things and everything. But if once you become conscious, then you leave destiny. And destiny has no control over you because you transcend in the meditation of consciousness. I hate to call it enlightenment. I'll call it consciousness because enlightenment got worn out. consciousness of the clear light, of the clear, or of unification. Once you become conscious of it, then you can take your will that's in destiny, because your will is subject to your attention. Your attention decides where your will goes. It's the decider. It's the magistrate. Your attention. Your attention is the judge. Your attention is not God, but it's your judge. It's your judging pivotal point. So you take your attention, you put it on your will, and you will yourself when you're in meditation, when you're transcendent, when you're in unification. You will yourself to be there in the state of being. You can hold yourself in it because you have the will. Because you took your will from destiny and chaos and put it into mastery of surrender, of unification, of the domain of God and creation. Did you get that formula? It's a big one, isn't it? I'm sorry.
I'm gonna have to listen to this class.
We've got it one or two times.
It's good though, isn't it?
You don't take shorthand.
The best, isn't it?
Well,
Yeah.
Anyway, if you can put that into a book, it'll sell 1 million. But Bernie needs to get it into our book but in a formula type way so that people could see it. Then you can add poetics to it so they can hear it like they want to hear it. But it's the same story. It's so basic. We've always said that we've always, from the very, 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 very beginning of giving this message, said that you are your attention. And wherever your attention is where you're at. Because that's all you are, is attention. You're a nobody. You're a non, you're a nothing. Because that's what attention is a nobody, a non, or nothing. It has nothing but attention. It's clear. It's your essence. It's so clear it has nothing on it. Pretty simple, right? If it's got to be clear, it can't have anything on it, can it, Chad?
Nope.
Can't have any idea, can't have nothing. It's got to be in the nothing. So that's your essence. But you have an attention that's attached to the essence. And it can place the essence in anywhere it would like once it masters chance, the quantum level, the transcendent level, rather than the relative level. Anybody can master the relative level. Those are the rich people of the world. They mastered the relative level. But to master the essence level are very, very, very few. That's why I guess they said they're the poor people of the world. That's not true totally, because a lot of poor people have not mastered their essence. But they mean poor in want and hopes and desires and beliefs. That's the boredom they're speaking of. Being poor or free from wanting those things to make you be in a state of being or realization of your essence itself, and using your attention to master your will, to take it from relativity into the quantum field of transcendence. You've done it, haven't you, Cammie? You've taken your will from stopping thinking and taken it into the transcendence of the quantum field and felt the bliss of being, haven't you?
Yeah.
And you did it with your attention. And so, but there was still an argument going on, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to get out of that argument, you got to have a devotion. Out of any argument, Doesn't make any difference what kind of argument it is. As above, so below. Argument with your neighbor, argument with your kid, with your husband, with money, with your bank card, with the world, whatever. To get out of the argument, you gotta have a devotion to get out of the argument, first of all, right?
Yeah.
Then after you grabbed a hold of the devotion, what do you do next with it? If it's a credit card or if it's the world.
You,
Surrender to the problem
yeah.
and deal
You
with
stop
it.
arguing.
Pardon?
You stop arguing.
Stop arguing with it and you deal with it and do it, right?
Right.
It's an argument until you do it, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay. And so as soon as you do it, that's called the surrendering.
Right.
And as soon as you surrender, what happens next, Bernie?
Unification.
Right? Because you surrendered yourself to it and you unified yourself with it and it passes. And but it's never gone, is it? It's always there with you, but it's no longer a wall. It's no longer an obstacle. And that's the master key formula to dissolving obstacles, bringing unification. So, to be able to become celibate, Osho says you need to fuck like mad everything you can, but don't get a disease. So that means very few people. 1 in a billion these days. Have long relationships that last 13 years or something like that. Don't sleep around. Like Lenny. Jesus. What a nightmare that was. Jesus. Oh. And once you've decided that you know sex, once you've decided you know it, you've befriended it. It's become your friend rather than your enemy. You may have sex, but you don't have sex because you want sex. The only reason you have sex is because you unify. It's no longer sex. It's called unification. Its essence is joining together, and they become one. And then you become celibate. Because you've unified. Once you're unified, you're celibate. You no longer are male or female, you're both. And they're one. They're one. And so you're celibate. It's a natural thing. You're going through the initiation publicly. It's not a private initiation. You do it by yourself. It's an aloneness. Osho's talking about it right now. You become totally alone. You begin to wonder about your gender. If that makes sense. It's easier for a female to do this than a person in a male body usually.
What do you think?
Because males are stuck on their dick. Right, Cammie?
Yeah.
And females have a dick plus a bunch of other stuff. So they have a more evolved body. Doesn't mean the essence that's in them is evolved. But they have more evolved body because they're the ones that can surrender easier.
So it's like basically more advantageous.
Yeah. And so if you get a chance, incarnate as a female. But make sure you don't pick a past incarnation. Pick one that's smooth. But there's not too big of an argument going on. You don't have to have babies. You can have pod kids.
Pass on that one.
Right, Cammie?
Right.
And they're born at 21.
Right. They can just
and all educated.
visit once in a while.
Right.
Or just have cats.
Or just.
Yeah, and let them turn into human beings once they reach 21.
Yeah.
A transformation chamber, you know. Have cats, all of a sudden, boom, they turn into a human being. Okay, go get a job. Don't bother me.
Now, unified means like this, right?
Unified means that,
Integrated?
no.
No.
See, what you're doing right now is you're putting two things together. Unified means it's one hand clapping.
I remember that next time I go to a concert.
Isn't that a funny thing, Sue? Everybody always has wondered what that meant, huh?
One hand clap.
Did you wonder?
Of course.
And you just finally got the answer?
Yeah.
Oh, no. It's,
Well, I
I'm
mean,
sorry.
I've had it, but
You've had it, but it's funny to
It's
hear it, huh?
interesting.
It's funny to hear it, I know. If you guys knew what I've been through for the last 30 years, you guys would have mercy on me, honest. Really,
Yeah.
honest. You would have mercy.
Unified is one hand clapping. So I got a problem with that.
I know. Everybody
I
has-
don't understand it.
I am not arguing with you. I am just saying.
You go
I
to
have been
Corky or
trying
No.
to solve problems for 30 years
One hand clapping is.
with
wow.
one hand clapping.
I mean, I can do one hand, but clapping is no story.
And the problem is, I dropped into an incarnation that was a job rather than just living life. And so sometimes it's, it's why did I do it? But I think everybody has to do it to pay their dues.
Gotta work
It's a long
twice as hard to
time.
have an early retirement, right?
Right. Everybody pays their dues at certain parts of evolution, you know, and you become a worker on creation, or you try to draw off of creation, or use creation, you do one thing or whatever. But the thing that really messed with me originally was when they first got me, I thought they were going to do all the work. And I just attended class. And then they said, okay, class is over. It's your job. You mean I gotta work? Yeah. Gotta go to work. I thought I was getting out of work here by listening to you guys or going to these classes or whatever. I didn't know you were going to give me a fucking job. Hello? I thought I was going to retire. I didn't think I was going to end up with a job in this life and the next one and probably the one after that. Oh my God, I didn't realize it was in the work. I thought it was in the play. On the stage of life, rather than in the work of the quantum. Because everything happens in the quantum. And everything just is played out on the stage of life. Quantum is the state of creation. And the stage of life is just the manifestation of it. So, as the Egyptians said, they spent their whole lives preparing to die. And that sounds like what all they were doing is digging graves and making coffins and stuff. That's what they weren't doing that. What they were doing is they were meditating. And they were spending their whole life mastering their attention upon their will, so that when they did die, that when they went in through the transference, they could create a world that they were going to incarnate into Like they painted on their walls because of what they knew. What could be. And some of them took it into having 72 wives, and some said, hey, I don't want nothing to do with those wives. I'd rather just play with myself. And some of them took it into whatever design they wanted. Some of them took it out of sex totally. Some of them evolved on into a, I think they showed in Star Trek an Odo. Anybody ever seen Odo? He comes out of creation and transforms into anything that he wants because he became a master of creation. They call them the founders, I guess. Something happened to that poor Roddenberry or whatever his name was. He got had. Roddenberry, yeah. He knew what was going on. It's pretty close to that, evolution. What happens with the evolutionary soul or essence. The Egyptians wrote it on in their papyri, on their walls, on their tombs, that what they did is they spent their whole life taking their attention, putting it on their will, and storing it as potential energy for their transference. And when they went through their transference, they sailed down the river, the Nile, in a Sekhet boat, going through the transference, above the water, floating. It was an amazing ceremony to be able to, God, I'd love to sail down the River Jordan in my mama form. What a classic that would be. Did you think of that TV show? If I drop dead, you guys, you got to put me in this mama form. Film me with good resin, 2 inches all the way around, sort of like that kind in there, and sail me down the Jordan River and let all the channel newses film it. Okay? So that if sailing down the River Jordan is part of the religious ceremony, and with this new state law, we got it made. We can do it. And so we got to apply for the permit right now in advance, maybe, to be able to do that and see what they say. So in case we need to fight it.
Now you said River Jordan, do you mean
That one.
this
Jordan
Jordan
River.
River?
Yeah.
I thought you meant in the east.
No. Who wants to spend any money? This is cheap.
Just drop you off at the park and kick your mama farm in the canal there?
No, you got to put it in a nice boat.
This is sinking.
Yeah, it'd be a hell of a boat. I got
Hey,
my
they
work
have
cut out
lots of.
for me.
Have you seen the boats that go up and down that river?
They run little canoes down there.
You could put a beautiful, nice boat in that river. It's at least 20 foot wide and 10 foot deep. You don't have no motors, just rows, and just sail along with the current. Anyway, what they did is they designed their next life, and the way they did it is use their attention to take their destiny wheel and put it in potential as like a storage battery, because they kept their meditations going and they were out of destiny, so they didn't spew their sperm upon the ground and waste it. They saved it, and they put it in their potential to use as their essence to create their next transformation. Those are all metaphors, but they're realities too. Doesn't that make sense, Al?
Yep.
And then they were able to choose the path of the Buddha. And there's probably infinite number of Buddhas. Buddha is just sort of the name for path. It's not a person, it's a vibration. It's a way. And all those metaphors of joining with the Buddha and everything are metaphors. They're a way, they're a path. That's all they are. And in your transference, you choose one of those paths. But, not to be dishonest with you, sometimes it is very difficult to drop your propensities and, what are those other things called? Habits. And what else? Natures?
Characteristics.
And Chris? Wishes, wires, and wishes, wants, and desires. It's difficult to drop them because if you've been entertaining them constantly in life, the moment you drop dead doesn't mean they're going to go away. You're going to still be entertaining them. And so it's a personal initiation. And it happens publicly in here. But it's a decision that each individual makes. It's not a decision someone gives to you. They can tell you about it. They can say surrender to it. They can say do it. But you just happen to be holding yourself out as somebody, when in reality you're nobody. And that's the only barrier. Questions? Yeah. Yeah, you had a big question before you had to pee. It was building up.
It's just funny that we're so far down the evolutionary scale that we're
Oh,
in those.
yeah, we are
And
very
we think
low.
we're so far up there that we're gonna, so I don't know, I just can't imagine, people's minds when they go through this scenario. This is it. But anyway, my question was, is it true that, I think you once said that there's so much force behind our life by this time, that there's really no choice except the choice to just stand back and look at our life?
No, I'm not saying that. And that's one thing I really want to clarify. What I'm saying is, God is surrender. Surrender is God. Because once you join all those elements together, they're one. At the beginning, they were the end of it. They're one thing. They're enclosed in a parentheses. It has above it a big word God. The way to God, the way to the creation, or that's, and it has that one big word above that parenthesis. And so, all I'm saying is it's your personal surrender. It goes no further than that. What happens is, because the mind thinks, it tries to escape that quantum state and make another path. Any kind of discussion. But once you're in it, it's so silent and it's so clear that it's yours. And it has no questions. It's questionless. It's nothing. It's nobody. And that's the bliss about it. But the thing that tries to take you out of it is a thought. And any thought is painful once you're in it. It's the orgasm of creation itself.
What's going to happen tomorrow at 2 o'clock is already written, is that right?
No, it is and it isn't. It's written in destiny. Okay? What's going to happen tomorrow? But it depends upon where you're into tomorrow. Where you're at when tomorrow happens. And that's the paradox of it. If tomorrow happens and you decide to be in the destiny of it rather than the meditation of it, it happens to you. But if you're in the meditation of it, if you've transcended it, You're in the being of it. And then you're in the field of all possibility. It doesn't take away probability because possibility has some probability in it. It's like if you roll the dice 1,000,000 times, there's still chance. But sooner or later, that probable of walking through the wall is going to take place because, like in that movie they showed, if you try to enter the wall 1,000,000,000,000 times, the odds are on the 1,000,000,000th time you'll do it. And so the laws of physics are saying this is true.
That's what quantum physics says. It's going to happen, but they can't predict when it's going to happen.
That's what we're saying, right?
Well, that's.
Isn't
our
that what we're
consciousness.
saying here?
But
It's
I think
going to
in
happen.
the bigger consciousness, they know when it's going to happen.
No, they
You
don't know when it's going to happen. They're just sort of guessing at their fucking formulas. They don't know shit, is the problem.
Well, you're saying this whole thing was created by chance, then? There's no divine...
It's
intervention?
both.
I know it's both, I know.
And so when you unify them together,
You get shit.
you don't get pissed at all.
But anyway, can I say something?
Mm-hmm.
What I'm saying is that our lives are written already, and what's going to happen is going to happen. I was born to rob a bank, and I did. And then there's nothing that could have interceded between when I was born and when I did it to change that. The only thing that could have changed that would have been my consciousness to see me doing it. And in that effect, I'm sitting out in the theater watching my movie. But we're so far down the evolutionary scale that we can't change our lives that have this huge power behind it. This God that's created this whole thing. That's doing it. Has
How would you answer that, Shad?
To me, it's a paradox. I mean,
No, he said you can't do it. That's the question. That's the question that I'm asking you. He said it's impossible to change your destiny because we're so far, so low down on the totem pole of evolution.
We're just can amoeba change his destiny? No. And that's what we are. We're pretty much amoebas in a scale of things. We think we're like way out there, but we're not. I don't
I'm not arguing with that, but could he?
yes.
Okay. That's your argument, right? Cammy, do you think he could?
Yeah.
Do you think he could, Chris? Do you think he could? Do you think he could? Excuse me, I had to burp. Do you think he could? How about you? Think he could?
I think that's the ego saying it. I don't think you really can.
If that were the case, then amoeba would never change to anything other than it
Right,
was.
it evolved.
What it's. They
That's
think
what
they're
drives
changing, but it's
evolution.
just something bigger. They were destined to change, so they changed. They think it was them who changed.
Anyway, is there anything that you feel that you have a misunderstanding about what I said tonight that we can't put in the book and put on that purpose page and a couple of other pages in clarification?
At the moment, no.
Okay.
But when I have to start.
Okay, ask.
Right. I'll be in touch.
Okay. Don't feel that you're so evolved that you prevent yourself from finding yourself. Because to be able to move into that state of unity, you don't have to, but you surrender to a devotion to a cause that is beyond yourself. It's something beyond that you expect of yourself even. Because what you expect of yourself is your easy path. But to surrender to something that's going to catapult you forward in evolution is a surrender to something that you believe that's impossible for you. And that's what causes evolution. It's the quantum. It's the impossible becoming real. That's the quantum. It's the impossible becoming real. It's the being in the chance when the odds are played out. And your will is so strong that you control the chance. You become a master of chance. And you cause the chance by your mastery to become destiny. The divination that the Egyptians used, the divination that the Buddhists try to practice, the divination that's hinted in the Old and New Testament, the divination that Christians pretend to practice. What's really there? Anything that I need to say or clarify, Bernie? Chris, what would you think that that Bernie would need to know about what we've talked about that he hasn't gotten? Ask him a question.
He's got a lot of notes.
No, I mean, from what you've heard, ask him a question and see if he understands it. A question that you've understood. Ask him. See if he's got it down. How he's going to write it.
How does one... Yeah, that's all you need to say. That's all you need to say. Devotion equals surrender equals unification equals God.
It's what a formula, huh? And they're in parentheses. And above them is the word the all. That's how you get, that's the all. That's the formula. Can you think of a better one or a different one?
I don't know.
Go ahead, try.
I can think of a question.
Okay, go
I
ahead.
have a question.
What's the question?
Devotion equals surrender equals unification equals God. That's what the formula is, correct?
Or there can be synonyms for each word, yeah.
Well,
Osho
The
calls
formula-
Osho calls Osho calls the unity or unification love, because that's what the word, they like that word then. But unification is love, called love making.
right.
Okay, what's the question?
Well, it sounds like a step process. So what's the difference? I mean, it sounds like
That's why I'm
obviously
saying they're in a
leads to-
parentheses. It's sort of like the love act. You relax. You focus your attention. You begin to feel. You fall into the feeling. And you sail down the river of ecstasy. Is that a poetic way to say it?
Yes, there's the poetry.
How else would you like to hear it? What was the question?
What would be the difference between devotion and unification? and I know there isn't one, but I'm thinking of.
Okay, you're thinking of the
thing
formula.
I see
Oh.
devotion equals surrender equals.
Okay, what
unification.
they all are is they're the exact same thing, okay?
Right.
But they are portions of the quantum element, like they're the positions on the string of creation, from the nothingness to the all. And as you ride down the string, it vibrates at different vibrations, at different states. But out on the end, it's the all.
Okay.
And it comes out of nothing, and has, and there's it's time and space is all. And to get the human consciousness headed in that direction, you need to talk to them in their own realm. I guess I'll show you is love. So we need to use time and space, and so we have to start at the beginning and have an ending, but it's still, the ending is the beginning, and the beginning is the ending. They're all the same thing. The first word is?
Devotion.
No.
Surrender.
First word.
Relax.
Relax. And if you just relax, it would take care of the rest, right?
Right.
It's the same as the rest. And the next word is?
Focus.
Is what?
Focus.
Focus?
They're two words though. Focus attention.
Focus your attention and relax. Okay, so as you focus your attention and relax, it's the same thing as all the rest of the words. Next word?
Feeling.
Feeling.
Fall into feeling.
And then?
Start sailing.
Got it. That's it. That's the poetic way.
It's easy when you have notes.
Cliff notes.
That's the poetic way is all. I guess we gotta say it in the way everybody wants to hear it. And you guys can.
Well, I mean, you know, if you talk about unification, tell someone to cultivate unification.
They're gonna go some. What is that? A cauliflower or is that a squash?
But if you-
I was trying to buy a yellow squash the other day when I went up to Wild Oats to see if you guys got any posters posted, you know. And I went to get some brand too. So it wasn't just to check on everybody. It was, I needed the brand, and check on the posters was second. But I brought back a flyer, and we need to put a new poster up every 2 weeks at every Wild Oats. You like to look at the girls? Come on, you haven't got any excuse. Spring, they're all out there with those things that go around, and everything shows except for their nipple. So you can go look at the girls or whatever. And you could, I'd pick a watermelon home and paint it. It probably looks better. Sorry. I'm not into big tits. Sorry, guys. Yeah. I get cut from this one. It's like that. Questions? You must have another one. Come on. We got a couple more minutes left until we use
I'm
up all
afraid
the-
to ask a question.
Yeah.
Because when I ask a question, you tell me, don't
That's how I answer.
You tell me, don't ask questions.
That's how I answer, because the only reason being is I can give you a solution to your question, is because there's no answer to any question.
Well, you know.
Wait a second. Wait a second. Hold still for a second. There's no answer to any question. There's no answer to any question. Because once you begin to question, all there is question. There's no answer to any question. There's no answer to any question because there's always an infinite amount of questions that follow the Buddha's path of question. But there's no question in the Buddha's path of no so clear, it has no question on it, no color on it, has nothing on it. And only your attention can initiate you into it. If you put your attention on the silence, all of a sudden you'll discover a clear light in your presence. It's so easy to hear, isn't it, Al, when you surrender? But it's so difficult to hear when you're thinking.
So easy, just, like you said, the first step is to just realize that your brain, your thoughts are not you. Such an easy step. And then we think we're so great because we realize it.
Yeah, but it's so easy to be a nobody. You know why? Because it's true. Because there is nobody, because there's only one person. The reason being is there's all those people. And if there's all those people, there's got to be an opposite of all those people. Because everything has an opposite. And so if there's all those people, there's no people. And that's the no person. And once you discover the no person, then you can have sex with it. Fun! Sex, fun, 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 fun. Play, play, play. Play, play, fun, 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 fun.
Single-handedly speaking.
Yeah, single-handedly. And when you single-handedly have fun with it, you put as much attention in your hand as you do in your male. And you'll find your female. When you find your female, you can say, wow, I got a female. I got a male. It's really funny if you're a male and you find the male of a female. It's fun.
One more time on that. Sounds like an Abbott Costello thing. Who's on first?
It is. If you become a female, you can find a female. As long as you're a male, you'll never find one. Because you don't know what they are. You gotta be one to know one. How's that?
Well, then there's no hope for the males.
Oh, bullshit. You can become a girl like me.
Well, that's not what you just said. You
It's
said you
just the
can't
same
do it.
thing.
Oh, you're really pushing me.
Isn't that true, Bernie? What I just said is true, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you relax enough and you can allow your attention to be in your female while you're with yourself, you can discover you have the only reason you're feeling good is you have two sides. But you've got your attention on just the one feeler. But if don't you think that if you had a heater with two elements in it, okay? And if you turned one on, it would be so warm. If you're able to turn the other one on, you get pretty hot, right?
Right,
And you have a nice warm room.
right,
And so you got to be able to turn both sides on of yourself.
right.
And all you're doing is turning one side on. You're using your female to turn your male on. And so you got to surrender your male to your female, and they both get turned on. And no one can initiate you into it. It's just something that you discover through practice. It's sort of like learning how to drive a car, except on a different level. It's on a quantitative level. And so then after you discover that, you can't go back. Could you?
It'd be pretty difficult.
Yeah. Other questions? What do you think, Cammy? This okay class?
That's a great class.
Do you think you can make a good book out of it?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Who do I need to send the ones that I've already
Chris.
sent
Chris
out
said he
to?
would help edit.
Okay, Chris
Yeah.
and anyone else?
He'll edit the
wanna
English
look
and
at it?
everything, like send it to Bernie, send it to Al Martin. Al'd like to work on it, add some poetics to it.
Okay.
But don't necessarily take their changes.
Okay.
Make suggestions and send them to me. But do your own writing, because I think that you can, I think you've got a pretty good handle on it.
Okay.
Don't you?
Yeah, I'm a little behind, but I've got a few.
Well, life is always behind,
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah.
It's always behind. If you surrender to being behind, it's so easy.
You know, huh?
It's sort of like vacuuming the floor. I got the vacuum and I've had it out for a week. And I only vacuumed it 3 times. But I keep on telling myself I need to vacuum it one more time. And it's an obsession. It becomes an obsession. And so just relax with it.
Right. Okay.
It'll come out in its quantum destiny. If you put your attention in the quantum part of it. It's really interesting how close the scientists can get, but they refuse to let go of reality and move into the subjective, which is philosophy. It's sort of like being a man and saying, I'm gonna always have a hard dick and never be a woman. I'm gonna let them have it. Yeah.
Say, that's it. That's it. That is it. Talk about polarized, literally on the pole.
Weird, huh?
Totally.
Questions? Answers? Statements? Okay, I guess we're done. Boy, I had the greatest lunch today. Couldn't believe it. Doesn't rub well over there. Or there. Oh, that's better down here, doesn't it?
Sure does. Smell like hell.
It's so easy to think. Right?
It does it to you.
But the paradox is it's a thrashing. Thinking is a thrashing. Even if it's controlled thinking, it's a thrashing. But you need some thrashing to keep your muscles toned. Right? Gotta be thrashed a little, or you wouldn't be able to drive down the road. I mean, if you were a guru sitting in a cave and you got into a Hummer and drove down the 22 freeway in between Santa Ana and Garden Grove, you'd probably get in an accident, wouldn't you say, Bernie?
That's probably the orange crush there.
Yeah.
That's why they all have magic carpets, so no mechanism. They can just float up.
Hey, you wouldn't believe, I hit a rain wall when I was down there doing about 85 miles an hour, and it was like running into a car wash. I mean, you couldn't see nothing. And everybody was going. And so it would be like a guru sitting in a cave going on a freeway.
So what'd you have for lunch?
I think I had one lunch while I was there. Pastrami with Lenny.
You had, no, today you said you had a great lunch. So what was your lunch?
I had a bag of popcorn.
Oh my God. You're gonna break your teeth.
No, I popped all the kernels. I don't eat kernels. I just
He doesn't
eat
eat the old maids.
Just see if we-
It was very, very, very good. I mean, I couldn't believe how tasty that popcorn was. You know what amazes me is how that little tiny piece of corn can get so big and so light and so tasty. What a transformation. And when I was eating the popcorn, I thought, God, I'm eating at least 100 transformations.
That's what's in that's the seed, right? Inside the husk, that
Water.
I had a great lunch today. I had a bag of popcorn. Ate all the seeds that transformed into reality.
Ron.
you're picking at that mic all the time.